Now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
Yep, a jumping Jehoshaphat. Here we are, back again, just to clear your mind of things that you would rather leave behind. In the studio today, we have former U.S. diplomat David Hunter. Former. I don't know. I mean, really, you're not former. Nobody's really It's like a former Marine. So, hoorah! Once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Yeah.
And you're still out there. You're fighting battles on the line. You're doing lots of research. And this show would not be happening if it wasn't for my friend David Hunter. So let's have some applause.
Thank you.
It's fake applause.
It's always good.
But it's good for you because.
It's always good to be here.
Yeah. You'll be in your dime bed going, why did I ever waste time doing that show?
No, I get feedback from people now and then.
London, Sweden, or Switzerland, excuse me.
The topics, yeah.
Yeah, all over the place.
We're going to have some...
Gifford, Troy, New York.
Some interesting topics today. Yeah.
Summit, okay, G7 Summit in Italy coming up on June 13th to 15th. That should be interesting. Italy's right-wing Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, am I saying it right?
Yeah, Meloni.
Meloni is hosting the latest G7 Summit. Host Meloni has expanded the group to include a large and controversial guest list, including heads of state from Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, South Africa, India, Turkey, Algeria, Brazil, Ukraine, and Kenya. So we got to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Russian warships and strategic bombers. We're going to talk about the successful Israeli hostage rescue. 4 were saved. Hundreds were lost. Some people are really angry about that. Some people are rejoicing that hostages were freed. Jewish emancipation threatened by the rising European far right.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what in the world do you mean by that. The emancipation of Jews from European ghettos began during the Age of Enlightenment.
Well, that's the last topic we'll get on today. But right. Just to summarize it for the audience, the Europeans have been having Europe-wide elections over this last week, and oddly, the far right has swept the field. These parties of the far right in France, in
are they having economic
Italy,
difficulties as we are? Is there a reason for it?
Well, there are several reasons for the far right sweeping the field, but the interesting point is who exactly is the far right, and are they unified?
Who is the right?
Who is the far right?
Left anymore?
Yeah,
I mean, are they skinheads? Are they far left people? What are they?
And the more interesting aspect is, some far right, as we know, are neo-Nazis, and neo-Nazis are anti-Semitic, but other far right are anti-Muslim, but pro-Jewish. So you can have a far right who happens to be.
Well, there was a kid that came in here that had a show for a short while with me, right? Brilliant young man.
Yeah.
Like 21 years of age.
He was with Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes. He was a friend of his.
You know, he died,
Nick Fuentes did?
Yeah, he's the big guy, the big heavy guy with the long hair.
I'm not sure.
Pardon me?
That wasn't Nick Fuentes.
It was the guy
I know,
the guy who put in this equipment.
Yeah, but anyway.
That's the guy who died.
Yeah, okay.
Ed. Oh, yeah, it is. Ed. No, Ed Zoll's okay. But he was a friend of Ed Zoll's. Worked for Ed Zoll.
Okay.
If you do, can you use this thing, or does yours not work? Pardon me?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. Anyway.
And it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
There's something else. Biden's son, of course.
Yeah, that's domestic. That's domestic. Politics,
well, we have to broach that somewhere a little bit, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, let's get on to the.
All right. So the G7 summit. Why you put things strategically at the top of the list for a reason. Why did you consider this so important? Because of this election?
Well, President Biden just got on a plane for Italy this morning. Okay. Timing. Talk about timing.
You keep up with stuff, don't you?
Yeah. They just showed it on TV. He flew out of the White House on a helicopter and went over to the.
Do you do you watch Fox and Friends? Do you watch NBC, CBS, ABC?
Yeah. Anyway, that's breaking.
CNN.
That's breaking news today. That Biden is on his way on the plane right now to Italy.
Okay, why is that breaking news? It's not going
Well,
to happen till when is it going to happen?
No, it's going to happen once June 13th.
What's today's date? I don't know, but we're
It's
near
the
it.
12th. It's the 12th.
Oh, tomorrow.
So tomorrow. He's
okay.
yeah.
Hey, to the party.
So he's
I'm still thinking like I don't know what I'm
yeah.
thinking.
So now the G7. I wanted to review for you and the audience. Who is this G7 and why is the G7 important? You know, the G7 has been around
Isn't that
since
the one where when Trump was a president, that they were standing in a line and he pushes them aside and steps forward? Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I don't think that was the G7. That was a NATO summit. It's hard to tell with Trump. But why is the G7 important? The G7 is the world's richest countries, the richest countries. Together, the G7 represents $45 trillion of gross domestic product, gross national product, 45 trillion. Now, this is something, people say, oh, America's going to hell and it's down in the dumps and blah, blah. And I want people to understand in this ranking of gross domestic product, the United States is number one. We have $23 trillion of gross domestic product. 23 with T with a trillion.
I mean, annually.
Annually. Our gross domestic product is $23 trillion. The next ranking country is China with 18 trillion, which is coming up. They're catching up. They're the world's second largest economy. And then you have Japan with 5 trillion, Germany with 4 trillion, France with 3 trillion, the UK with about 3, and down to Italy with 2, and Canada with 2. So all of those countries except China that I just described are in the G7.
So you said we have a total of how many trillion?
45 trillion.
Noah, would you look up? I was just reading it yesterday. See, it's like you have to take a picture of everything you read these days. There's just so much out there. I read that there are this many billionaires in America, and that together, and I don't know if it was 400, it wasn't 40, it wasn't 60, but anyway, could you find out how many billionaires there are in America? It's a very small number, and they have like 4 trillion themselves.
Right.
And this guy was on TV, or if you call it TV today, I don't know what you call it, it's online, and he was saying that we need to tax the rich more. Well, corporations are getting away with stuff.
There is there's an issue of fairness within an economy, as you said. Should the rich not carry a lot of these billionaires end up paying no taxes? They've got inside deals and excellent consultants to help avoid taxes.
Well, and there's a lot of us out here that also have people that help manage to squeeze out every penny we possibly can.
Yeah.
And then we had people tested during COVID.
Yeah.
I have inside information which I cannot divulge. I do not have the names.
Right.
But I know there are many professionals, doctors, dentists, who got $1 million.
Those COVID relief funds. Yeah.
And I just found out that somebody was killed in a motorcycle accident during COVID. And yet it was contributed on the death certificate to be COVID because the hospitals got an extra $35,000 from the U.S. government if the person died of COVID. Okay. And that's why there were no deaths from regular flu during that period. So the shenanigans are not just the people in Washington. It's us being tested, too. We the people. We the people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what I want to point out for you and for the audience is why the G7 is important. And as I just described, they represent $45 trillion. Keep in mind, the world's total economy, the GDP of the whole world, is 100 trillion. So they represent.
We have how many?
We have 45. The G7 represents.
So no wonder would Trump push those people aside like, hey.
The G7, not the U.S. The G7 has 45 trillion.
Oh, I thought you meant the U.S.
The U.S. has 23 trillion, so it's quite a lot. The U.S. alone is like 1/4 of the world. Almost 1/4. Think of it that way. And the rest of the
Who's next?
Among the G7, Japan is next. Japan and Germany.
Smart people.
But Japan is only 5. Germany's only 4. France is only 3.
We're that much more?
We're that much more. Yeah.
No wonder.
We're 23 trillion, and Japan is 5 trillion.
On the boats and on the planes that come into America.
That's one of the reasons they're coming to America, because America is so wealthy. It is such a rich and prosperous country. Yeah.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
But be honest. If
What?
you and I were buddies, we're kids down in Mexico, which I've been to when I was a little kid. That's why I started shining
You
shoes
probably come
at
come
8 years
here.
of age. And I said, well, I'm going to shine. I came back to shining shoes.
Yeah.
If I was a kid, I would by hook or by crook, I'm getting in there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is paradise.
America is.
You and I are world travelers. I've been to third world nations as you have been.
Yes.
We know that most people don't. I mean, you come back to America after being in Africa or Haiti or wherever, and you go into that Publix, and you go, "Oh my God! Look what we have."
I know.
It is just
when I was working with some East Bloc countries, they would come over. This is in the days before the Soviet Union collapsed, and some of these East Blockers would come over to the U.S. And often on like tours, and they would be brought to an American grocery store, and they'd walk in the store, and they thought, this is Western propaganda. These stores don't exist.
Yeah.
These stores are being set up for us to make us think that capitalism is such a successful form of economy.
And they were from where?
From Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union.
Sure.
Yeah, former Soviets. They would not believe.
People have no idea.
Yeah.
Now, you were a diplomat. Thank
Right.
you very much.
Yeah.
For the United States of America for how many years of South Korea?
Yeah, I was in Korea for almost 4 years.
So being that close, did you get to see any semblance of the imprisonment, nothing less than imprisonment, mentally and physically, of the people of North Korea?
Well, I had some employees on my staff who were themselves of what's called mixed families, where some of the
really?
some of their family members were from and living
Were
in the
they allowed
north.
to have visitation or no?
On one or two rare occasions, they did have in these early days. They had some. There's a place called Mount Pekchu, which is a sacred mountain, and they would allow South Koreans to visit Mount
I have
Pekchu,
dry
which
eye,
is
I'm sorry.
which is in the north, and they had some family reunions allowed, but that was quite rare, and that goes back and forth.
I wonder when they separated these two countries, who set that all up? So, okay, we'll have a North, we'll have a South.
Well,
and after the war,
it
I mean,
was.
wouldn't everybody just run south? Say, hey, get south, man, because they're going to put up just like they did in Germany.
Well, it in many ways it was similar to the Berlin Wall, as you remember that. Where the Berlin Wall kept the East Germans inside
How long
East
can
Germany.
these people stay imprisoned in North Korea?
Well,
Oppression, horrible.
the fact is that they have been indoctrinated. I wouldn't call it mind control, but something close to it. Indoctrination becomes to the point where the North Korean regime is seen as the great leader, and that they have pictures of him, massive pictures of him, and they worship him like he was a god. So
Well, we also have places like where I went on a missionary trip
Yeah.
a couple times to Haiti, and there was a man with a wounded leg. I probably told you that story before. He's up by the sea, living in a little grass shack. And I mean, you walk into the little shack, it's smaller than this room.
Yeah.
Okay. Dirt floor,
Yeah.
and all they had was a sugar cane mat to
Right.
sleep on. No bedding, no
Yeah.
furniture, no nothing. He had a wounded leg. And the lady said, well, he'll probably be dead in 6 months. If he was in America, he could get treatment for that. In a corner, what do you call it? Emergency,
Pharmacy.
emergency place, and or an emergency room. And yet he won't get that and will probably be dead. This was told to me seriously in 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you have economic slavery.
Yeah, well, it economic inequality, I would call it. I wouldn't call him a slave.
Because these people, when you go somewhere as a missionary, you become friendly with that whole nation.
Yeah.
So I run into Haitians. I come and say, "Wow, très bien," and they're hardworking people.
Yeah. Well,
Given the chance, the opportunity here in USA.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I want to push back against this concept that America is a disintegrating, collapsing country. We are the richest country in the world by far.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why the G7 is important. The G7 is essentially what I call the rich liberal democracy club.
So when Trump said we pay much, all these other people have to step forward. Well, they can't step forward like us, but how less are they contributing And
Well,
because we try to be the police of the world, and our boys and girls are dying doing that.
yeah. Well, and more recently, we have tried to become the financiers of the police of the world. We're saying we're going to support, but we'll put money in to help pay, but you bring the guys in. So even if there was a discussion about a UN or
We've had
Middle
stories
Eastern,
right in this room where somebody worked for CIA and $3 million a month is put in the back porch of this guy in Pakistan. That's $36 million a year to keep peace.
that was called funding the anti-Taliban faction in Afghanistan. Yeah, that was
So you're aware of that.
Yeah, that was. There were various factions, and the Taliban, of course, were ones that were anti-American, and
So
therefore.
were you made cognizant of these things or aware of these things when you were a U.S. diplomat?
Well, I served in Pakistan, so
Are there things you still can't tell me?
Yeah, there probably are. Yeah, there are things that.
Wow.
It's not that.
Hey, get the gun, Ma. No.
No, the point is that the United States tries, at least historically, tries to be a good influence in the world, and we are, for the most part, even today. We have seen ourselves appear to be hypocritical and biased and one-sided on this Israel-Gaza dispute that's been happening. We'll talk about that later. But in general, the United States has had a reputation of being a big, gentle giant. Again, we've interfered in Iraq and we've interfered in Vietnam, and we've had examples of where we've gone off the rails and tried to over-police or tried to impose our will, often as a reaction to something that is what I call a fear reaction, like communism. They're going to be taken over by the communists. We better send our troops in. Communism was used as a red flag, like we're a bull. They were waving the red flag, getting us to charge in by this so-called fear of communism. Communism is a less than desirable political system, economically and politically, but it is not totally without merit. And I say that because look at China. China is a communist system.
It is born out of an ideal, which is improbable.
Yeah.
To
the Russians were very inefficient implementers of communism.
Yeah. Remember Boris Yeltsin said it was an experiment that should have been tried on a smaller country.
On a more
Do you remember him saying that?
I don't, but it sounds reasonable. And it should have been tried on a smaller country and on a country with more competence.
But then we had this fellow who's in there now, Putin. He comes along, and he has a lot of power because he was in the equivalent of the CIA there. What is it called?
KGB.
KGB. And I don't understand the workings of this, but he gets elected legitimately once, maybe legitimately twice, and then he decides he's in for life. I mean, or they just had an election, but it's a bogus election, right?
Yeah, that's his.
I mean,
it's a bogus election.
But those people must know that, and how has he managed to weasel himself in there to subvert the whole system?
What he did. This is getting a little off track, but we'll divert for a minute because I know about this, and it's an interesting story. Putin got elected in 2000. That was Boris Yeltsin was getting sick, and he was
24 years ago.
I know, and Putin has been in power for almost continuously for that 24-year period.
That's longer than FDR was president four times.
Yeah, and when he first came in, we actually, the U.S. government, was supportive of Putin, even though he was former KGB. They called it former, he's still KGB, because he represented what I called stability and reasonableness. Yeltsin was thrashing around from one side to another and, drinking himself under the table, and he was a very unpredictable guy, and so people felt that he might be dangerous. So when Putin stepped in, they saw him as the little gray man, that he was wearing a gray suit, had a face, didn't have any emotions, and they thought, well, you got somebody that's going to at least take over this big, massive country, because Russia's the biggest country on the earth, population not, but territory-wise, and with all these nuclear weapons and so forth. And so we thought, well, we can at least have a manageable guy running Russia.
He was the former mayor of Moscow.
No, of St. Petersburg.
Oh, it was at St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg, yeah.
Have you been there?
I have not. No.
Oh, well,
but-
that I would recommend going even more than Moscow, just because of the opulence of then St. Peter the Great. By the way, he was great in that. This was a man who had altruistic. This guy was great.
Yeah.
This,
And
you know
actually-
how he died? This person was drowning in the ocean or whatever in the
I know, and he
winter.
rescued him,
Jumps in, rescued that person. They live. He got
Yeah,
and
got
died.
pneumonia. Yeah, actually, Putin was not the mayor; he was the vice mayor of St.
Because
Petersburg.
remember what's his name used to be here? Who
Yeah,
met
Paul
with him?
Janisch, Professor
Is
Paul.
he still alive?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Professor Paul is now living back up in Connecticut. But he met as a reporter. He met Putin. He was supposed to meet the mayor of St. Petersburg, and the mayor was unavailable, so they sent Vladimir Putin in as the deputy mayor. And so he interviewed him.
One little aside for
Yeah.
just the regional people here. Kay Clem, former tax collector. She was what do you call the person in charge of the elections? Supervisor of elections.
Yeah.
Was a darling lady. Had a great giggly personality. Was married to a very well-known. Mr. Clem is a very well-known and respected lawyer.
Yeah.
A rare find. I mean, really honest down the line. And we lost her a couple of days ago. So I just wanted to mention that our condolences to Kay Clem's family.
Well, going back to the G7 summit, let's focus on what you mentioned at the beginning when your intro, that Miss Maloney, who is, by the way, cast as a fascist. She's basically of the Mussolini party of fascism. Very
when you
interesting.
Look back and you see
Yeah.
the videos of Mussolini.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? He acts like an idiot, like a boastful, arrogant. You know, there's men that are arrogant, and then there's men that are stupid, arrogant. And he seemed to be just like a blowhard.
Yeah,
Like,
El
do you
Stupido.
agree?
El
El
Stupido.
Stupido.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah. No.
the
He
Italians
was.
have a word for that.
He was.
A stupida. A
Yeah,
stupida.
he was a kind of a uneducated, brash, had some of the Yeltsin type character to him, insecure. He had his wife was like
but he's almost like
his wife. Let me listen. His wife is like his mother, and he.
In what way?
Well,
You
she
behave
mothered him.
yourself.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She mothered
Well,
him.
he
She
probably
mothered-
needed that.
and he needed that, and yet he had a mistress for a number of years.
She probably let him have that.
And she let him have that.
Yeah.
And the mistress was essentially, like his toy doll that he called the mistress like 3 times a day, and met with her at least once or twice a day. So he was
Well, he was a blowhard that needed a lot of air pumped into him.
he was wrapped around the fingers of these people.
I want to say this now, because we're talking this morning, and
Yeah.
I am a conservative, and I am going to vote, as silly as it may sound, for Trump again.
That blowhard. Yeah.
He's a wee bit. I don't know what I would do if Donald was my best friend, because I love the guy.
Yeah.
But I can understand if you take yourself apart from it. Okay, let's go forward 20 years from now.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's almost like a condolence card to the poor left. I mean, these poor lefties, they were to the conservatives. This guy pops in and gives them a run emotionally for their life. I mean, I gotta say, if I was on the left,
Yeah.
I would be beside myself if you
Yeah.
didn't understand or
Yeah.
refuse to see the good side of Trump, because that bad side of Trump is like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
it's
I
like,
have a.
oh my God!
I have a-
and then we got this other character
Okay.
who's the president right
Yeah.
now.
I have a question for you. Who invented the idea, "Make America Great"? Who came up with that idea?
I remember hearing it from the lips not only of Obama, but way back to Clinton.
No, it's even earlier
Reagan?
than that. Reagan.
It was
It was
Reagan.
Reagan's campaign slogan: "Make
Was
America,
it really?
make America great again."
He didn't come up with red hats. He blew it.
Well, he didn't. The hat thing is.
Well,
is
he was
Trump.
he was in response to Carter.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the same thing is almost happening now.
yeah.
Just like you said, it's just happening in Europe. Right now,
Yeah.
we got this guy, we're paying gas. Like the other day, where was I? Somewhere up here.
Right.
And I paid $4 a gallon. Last night, I was down in, was it last night, I think it was? Yeah, I was down south here. Port St. Lucie paid $3.28,
Yeah.
saving that's 70 cents a gallon times 10 is 7. That's $14 savings if you have 20 gallons.
Yeah.
That's a $14 savings. That's free lunch at Applebee's.
Yeah, gasoline prices are low right now. Yeah, they've gone down
Yeah.
considerably.
Now, and then we have this, people say, well, there's more people that are employed. There's more people employed. That's because millions have come over the border who aren't employed, and those are making the numbers seem inflated. They are inflated for what they really are for Americans.
Yeah.
And now we just found out that these guys are coming over here and they're from Al Qaeda.
Well,
Al-Qaeda, how do you pronounce it? Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda. There may be. We'll get into this
but
issue.
Can you imagine 20 years from now,
Yeah.
we're watching a video?
Yeah.
I mean, and believe me, this is. I can see them, the creative writers,
Right.
I mean, to write this as a comedy,
Well,
and
see,
to see
the
the
thing
two
is,
goofballs
history-
that we have right now.
History sometimes repeats itself, and sometimes history is what I call a 2.0, 3.0 version. It's continuation. One of the Make America Great authors, the one in the Reagan era,
Yes.
was this guy who has a big tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No. Who?
Roger Stone.
The guy that I don't like.
Roger Stone, the guy you don't like.
worked
the guy
for Reagan?
He worked for Reagan
You know what amazes
back
me?
in those days.
is the very-
He's an old guy. That's
I
why
have-
Richard Nixon, he also worked for Richard Nixon.
It amazes me. I mean, I don't know. I hope I'm not a snoot. I was brought up very affluent, but I
Yeah.
was brought up with good discernment. And it amazes me, like, that Trump would have this Roger Stone.
I know.
I was right next to him in person. He wanted to talk to me. I didn't want to talk to him. I don't like that guy. There's something about that guy. And I will tell you this. Every time in my life, I don't trust Rhett Palmer. And you know what? I need to trust his voice more.
Yeah.
Every time that I spotted somebody and said, I don't get a good vibe. Oh, it looks like a skunk. It smells like a skunk.
Yeah.
Oh, it can't be a skunk. It's to me. It's always turned
Yeah.
out to be a skunk.
He was known.
There's even people in power here.
He was known, even in the days of Richard Nixon and of Ronald Reagan, as the dirty trickster.
And I
The
can
dirty
see that.
trickster
Yeah.
is the guy who does campaign actions like the swift boating and other things that are dirty tricks to win elections.
Why? Now, who's the other guy that has the radio show now? He's my age. The guy
Yeah.
that's unshaven. He went to jail for a while for Trump.
You're talking about
Yeah.
Bannon.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a now
Bannon.
there's another
Well,
that character and that guy. Now, if you just want to shave off, I don't know about heart. I don't know
Yeah.
whatever my giftings might be as an artist.
yeah.
But intellectually, this guy's like, I mean, he's really smart.
Well,
but he's really kind of weird.
Weird smart. Yeah. And Donald Trump gave him a pardon, by the way, at the end of his last term.
Oh, did
yeah,
he?
Bannon
That's right.
was.
I think I vaguely
Bannon was
remember that.
convicted. He was convicted of something related to this.
You think Trump will give himself
I don't know if he's going to become president.
What do you think about Biden not giving his son?
Yeah,
Biden?
I think that's understandable. Certainly at this point, he hasn't even been sentenced.
He may not get anything.
He may not. Chances
Well,
are.
hold on. Let's be honest.
He
for a
and
second.
he
Hold
and
on.
Donald can do community service together.
Yeah, let's hold on. First of all, let's be honest. This guy has no record. If he was Joe Schmo, if he was Rhett Palmer,
He wouldn't be. Yeah, exactly.
probably the judge is going to say,
Yeah.
"Look, you were,
Yeah.
when you were addicted." And look at this part. And then they're showing pictures of him with a pipe in his mouth and stuff. The guy was addicted. We
Yeah.
all have people in our lives who are some brilliant who have had addictions.
Yeah, that
it is
codeine-
the age of addictions.
yeah.
Alcoholism, the pot. Had a guy in here yesterday who went to jail.
The oxycodone stuff, of course, devastated many, many families.
Yeah.
All of Pennsylvania
Barbara
and
had
Ohio.
cancer. She said the
Yeah.
first time she took it, she's
Yeah.
very wise.
Yeah.
She knew she was addicted to it, and then
Really?
dealt with it and didn't do it. Just one pill, and she knew, whoa, whatever it might feel.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
look at what happened to Rush Limbaugh. He had the problem, and actually
Yeah.
it caused the deafness
Yeah.
in his ears.
No, so we need to show some compassion in those cases.
Yeah, and
it's not.
frankly, I mean,
it's not just-
and also I've watched him on TV and stuff.
Yeah.
He's attempted to come clean long before this. I'm talking like
Yeah.
3-4 years ago. I did this. I was wrong about this. The funny
Right.
thing is in this world, though, you're apples and oranges. You come clean thinking, here's my heart.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm repentant of what I did,
Right.
which is what it takes
Right.
to get clean.
Yeah.
He is staying clean.
Yeah.
He's doing a good life. And then everybody wants to stick their money. Oh,
Okay.
and you who are perfect. Let you who are perfect come along and stick
Yeah,
his
that's-
nose in the mud.
that's-
So, do
all
I
right.
believe in compassion for what's his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
But do I believe also that that the justice system has been abused? You know, they've been chasing down Trump
Yeah.
just relentlessly for 6 years. I mean, every day before he was even in office
Well,
in January
as we said before, Trump is
year he won.
he's using this to play the victim card as a part of
Well,
his
he
political strategy.
got smart. He embraced it.
Yeah, he's embracing. He's saying, "I'm not the cleanest guy, and if you want to go after me, I'll use that as a
Well, the
tool."
Greeks say for every obstacle there's
Yeah.
an equivalent blessing. Actually, in
Yeah.
life, it's true.
Yeah. All right.
Look
back,
at who's the guy? He's looking at you, kid.
Yeah.
He had a lisp, and he told his manager, "I'm going to get the lisp fixed." He says, "Don't you touch that lisp.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make you famous," and it did. Look at Barbra Streisand, going to get her big nose fixed. Okay, it's kind of big, but it's what's made her. It kept her from going up, but when she got up, it kept her up there because
Yeah.
that's the Jewish girl with the big nose who has the wonderful voice.
Right. That's true. Anyway, the thing about Meloni, we talked about this. The host of the G7 summit is
Yeah.
Giorgia Meloni, rather attractive, youngish woman, but who's directly connected to Mussolini by her.
But if she's
her
so
family.
young, why is she in charge?
Well, I
Why'd
don't
they
know.
pick Italy?
I don't know how
They moved that thing around.
the-
They picked straws out or something. Or
She's a good politician. She seems to
how
be.
old is she?
I would guess she's probably in her late 30s, early 40s.
How do
something
people
like
get
that.
so advanced so quickly?
Now the point
Because,
is
Rhett, actually, we don't want to tell you, but you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
the point is that Meloni is broadening out with this guest list that she's included. She's invited the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Now remember, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince was involved in killing Jamal Khashoggi back in the day. That was like 5 years ago.
It was horrible.
And so he's still seen by many as a human rights abuser.
And he was a press, right?
What?
He was a member of the press.
Jamal was a member of the
Yeah.
Wall Street Journal press. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a member. And
You don't kill.
he was
people.
living in America before he was actually killed in Turkey, but he was living in America.
Well,
so
but he spoke ill of the.
he spoke ill of the Saudi regime. So Saudi Arabia is a non-liberal democracy. It's not a democracy at all. It's a kingdom. It's non-liberal in every way. There's nothing that ties it to the traditional.
They actually have a king.
Yeah,
Is he a dictator or his family is?
He and the crown prince are dictators, and if you say anything bad about the crown prince or the royal family, you go to jail and you'll probably never come out.
I love the Saudis, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's the reality of it. So
I love
you're
the
bringing
Saudis, by the
so
way.
so traditionally the richest countries in the world, the G7, were also advocating for liberal democratic values.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have the crown prince putting his nose under the tent. All right. You also have Egypt that's been invited to come. Egypt is General Sisi. He is a dictator. General Sisi is a dictator. He overthrew the elected regime of Morsi and threw Morsi in jail. So that's not a liberal democracy.
Why read books when
Yeah.
you can just every day? No wonder you like to do this research. If you really get into it,
Yeah.
it's like right now it's unfolding and it's live. It's like
Yeah, this is going on. This is going on. I read
what
books
a
too.
wild ride.
But so the question is, you've got a fascist who's inviting to the G7 a traditional liberal democratic rich guys, rich persons club, all of these people from various parts of the planet that are not Democrats at all. The Egyptians, the Saudis, Turkey. That's Erdogan. He's pretty much a far right Muslim. And then you've got. So the concept is that they are trying to expand out what is a G7 and what G7 is all about. At least that's Meloni's approach. Now, Italy was the last one to
what do you mean by define expand out?
expand out what. By the way, Italy was the last of the G7 to become a member. It was G6.
Was it recent?
No, that wasn't that recent. It was. Let me see when it was. I think it was in Yeah, the seventh member was in 1970. No, Canada was invited as the seventh member in 1976.
So this was 1960
and in
perhaps.
So I'm not sure. I'm a little off on that.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So the
Was it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
yeah
You
no
know?
and they've also invited Argentina. Now Argentina economically is zero. When I talk about the GDP numbers, Argentina is way down on the bottom of the scale. They're so down on the scale that Argentina is practically
That's the
bankrupt.
remains of another dictatorship.
So why would you invite Argentina to the G7?
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yeah, the Peronism, Eva Peron.
Yeah.
So why would you invite Argentina, which is one of the poorest of the poor countries, to the richest of the rich? And
Maybe to give them a hand up.
well, I don't know. I mean,
Perception can turn into reality. I don't know.
so there is a sense that this is an attempt by her to distract from any true mission of the G7. Just make it another collection of countries without any unifying theme to tie them together.
What is their mission statement?
Well, as I said before, their mission, one of the missions that they're likely to be tackling this time around, is funding for Ukraine. That's at least what Biden is probably going to be doing.
But isn't that an empty hole?
No.
That we're just going to keep flooding with?
No. Funding for Ukraine is not an empty hole. I was talking to Noah before the show started
No,
today.
I've been told some nasty things
Yeah.
about Ukraine, that they oppress the people there, that it's a dictator. I don't know if it's a dictatorship.
A dictatorship, yeah. It's a Nazi dictatorship run by a Jewish prime minister.
Yeah, the guy's Jewish.
President. The guy's Jewish. Zelensky is Jewish.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
But what is the negative side to this whole thing? I mean, we the people think, oh, the Ukrainians, we love the. If you know somebody from Ukraine, you love the food they make for you.
Yeah,
They're very
I
hospitable.
served in Ukraine for 2 years. I
You
know the
lived
Ukrainians
there.
very. Yeah, I lived there. Yeah, I lived
so,
there.
out of anybody in this room,
Anybody,
you're well qualified.
out of most of the people that are listening, I'm well qualified too. Yeah,
That's what I mean.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is, Ukraine is not without its warts and faults, and it did have under the time I was serving there, corruption was endemic.
Would
Corruption.
it have been better for them to fold though, and just let the Soviets have these little pockets of economic blessings that they want, and kind of be under this umbrella of the why?
I've explained many times before the Putin's goal of retaking Ukraine is very similar to Hitler's goal of retaking the Sudetenland, and then after taking all of Czechoslovakia. His long-term goal is to reconstitute the Soviet Union Empire, except it will be under the Great Russian Empire. So it'll be under the flag of Russia, and he wants to incorporate all these into either reincorporate them into Mother Russia or make them what I call compliant satraps. Belarus, Mr. Lukashenko in Belarus, is a compliant satrap. A satrap is a term from Central Asia, and it refers to a prince who rules a territory, but he does so at the
expense of who?
At the leave, at the grace of the Genghis Khan, the big ruler, the great
That's
Khan.
a satrap.
A satrap. He serves under the grace of the great Khan, if you want to think of it that way. And I'm not sure if the word comes from the Mongolian, but it certainly has implications of the Mongolian.
We have many politicians that are satraps. They're in there because some rich guy called them on the phone and said, I'll get you elected, but I'm going to have a red phone in your office and
you're a prince. You're a
the
prince.
regional equivalent of a governor.
Governor. Okay, well, that's not correct. There are lots of definitions, but that would not be the correct term for satrap.
The main one.
Anyway,
how come you guys never like what my guys type, whether it's Noah or the
no,
other
it's fine.
guys in there?
I'm good. He's looking at it, but that's what I call a 5-second dictionary definition. I've studied this for years, and I understand what the history of satraps are. And it's a very good word to know. Because it does imply that you are not your own man. If you're a satrap, you're not your own man. You're not your prince of your own kingdom. you're the kingdom by the leave of the guy who's in charge of you. That's what a satrap
You know,
is.
it's like I have some exploits that I'd like to do with my art.
Yeah.
But I've not sought out the wealthy because I really middle management. I've not sought out the. I don't want to be under somebody's thumb. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
You
You're
know?
not a satrap.
No, I don't want to be.
You're the king of your own little world. Yeah, that's right.
And look, you can be a satrap under ill-gotten gain.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says ill-gotten gain grows wings and takes flight.
Yeah.
You know, some people can live with that. They don't have a conscience.
Right.
But I tell you what, if I got a bunch, let's say I got $10 million illegally,
Yeah.
and then I put my art out using that, it's kind of like it taints the whole thing. The whole foundation has an Achilles heel. It's going to fold sooner or later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. So at least you can.
At least I can say one thing.
Yeah.
I may have fallen forward to a semblance of a little bit of success, but at least I did so legitimately, honestly, tried to be
you didn't
forthright.
cheat on the cards. You didn't
I
cheat on
tried not to, you know.
That's
My only guilt is that I had some people spend a lot of money in advertising, and I built their practices or whatever it was, and they've come up to me and said so.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to, anyway, I won't go into, it'll sound like I'm boasting, but anyway, and then I've got other people who advertised and said they didn't get any results. This was years ago, but I still feel guilty about this one guy in the insurance business in South Florida. Well, he probably shouldn't have been advertising up here anyway, but anyway, it's like, I don't want to stand before God one day and say, know.
No, as long as you were not misrepresenting, if you were collecting advertising and you didn't do the program.
Meanwhile, I was wrong and I said the whole world listened to my show, and I was number one.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, so I just wanted to point that out about the G7 taking place and the fact that, you've got.
Do you know that if I said that I was number one with numbers, there'd be people out there who would believe it? Do you know one time we had this fake thing where we go, hey, I'm up in the helicopter today. And this is when he had radio. There was no video.
Yeah.
And we had the sound effects
And
of
they
a
thought you were in a
helicopter.
helicopter.
And I said, I'm up here in the WAXE helicopter, WTTB, whatever it was at the time. And, blah, 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 blah. And I see that, yes, here's our traffic report. There is traffic in Vero Beach. That was our traffic report. And there were people going, I'm really surprised that Vero has its own traffic helicopter.
Traffic helicopter.
And I'm like, they're believing this thing,
well,
which is kind of cute that they should be so
And of course,
unwise,
if you're in Vero Beach
or-
in the summer, at least in years past, you'd be shocked to hear that there is traffic on the road. It's
Well, actually,
quiet.
still,
It's
because
quiet.
we have an older group that settles here, even though even though we have a lot more traffic than we used to. Still, about 8:30 at night, they roll up the streets here.
Yeah,
it's
it's
quite
quiet.
wonderful.
It's
go to
quiet.
Miami and do some business, or go to Fort Lauderdale do some business.
I've been
Come
there.
up here at night and you go, look at this.
I know it is. That's why people like to be here. Anyway, we've got another
But
Florida.
for the young people, though, it's zero.
We got another Florida topic that we should go to right now. This is the number
Florida,
two. Yeah.
Florida
This
topic.
is a
Okay,
Florida
we're going to
topic.
go to number 2. What time is
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
I
we
can't
can do.
see the clock
Yeah,
anymore.
that's all right.
We need to
we
move
got
the clock in
9:50.
here.
We got 10 minutes. 10
Ever
minutes.
since we put in these lights, we
Yeah,
have
10
new
minutes.
lights in here.
We'll cover it in 10.
Because they wanted me to look pretty.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
they is me. And
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Anyway, so Russian warships and strategic bombers hold exercises near east coast of. So this is they're making some sort of a statement. Russia has announced it is conducting war training exercises off the east coast. The east coast would be right here. Where
Yes,
are they?
Florida, East Coast.
Say later
Vero's
this
on the
week,
East
including
Coast.
warships and strategic bombers. Is there any reason to be concerned? Oh, this guy is a nut. You know, he said, I'm not going to enter Ukraine, and he did.
I know.
I mean, this guy could start World War III. Hey, look, he's ticked off because we're feeding Ukraine. We're feeding them.
we're also ticked off because we are now supplying weapons to Ukraine and saying you can use them inside Russia. Remember, we talked about that a couple weeks
these
ago.
bombs, these super-duper bombs.
Well, so what's the significance of what?
If you were Putin, wouldn't you be a little, is the word pissed off?
Well, if Putin was
I
reasonable.
use that word. I don't like to swear, but
if
that word is in the
If
Bible.
Putin was reasonable, he'd say the reason why the U.S. is giving weapons that Ukraine is allowed to fire into Russia is because Russia is engaging in a war on Ukraine, and these masses of troops and weapons on the inside of Russia are being used to attack Ukraine. So obviously the Ukrainians have the right to attack those masses of weapons before they come into Ukrainian space to kill Ukrainians. Even yesterday and the day before, there were apartment buildings that were bombed by rockets from Russia, and tens of peoples were killed tragically. Every day, this is happening inside Ukraine, thanks to Putin. So if Putin doesn't like the fact that he's having Ukrainians fire rockets into Russia, he can stop it. He can say, okay, I'm pulling my troops out of Ukraine. They don't need to be there. And then there will be, Ukraine is not the offender
Do you
here.
think he believes his own lies?
I think Putin...
I mean, he's totally given over to a dark side. When he look square in the... I had somebody do that to me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Somebody who was very successful, very young. And he was looking at me in the eye.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't do that, Rhett. And I already had confirmation that this guy... So I'm looking at somebody. I didn't even call him on it. I was like, wow. I was in my 20s. I was like, wow, somebody can look you straight in the eye and lie like that. I've always been rather naive about business.
Putin is a bully's bully. Let's put it that way.
He can bully the bully.
He's a bully's bully.
But he'll get the business done.
Well, no, he won't. He's
What do
not.
you mean?
We're not going to fall for it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. What's going on right now? He is sending over 4 naval vessels to Cuba, and in fact, I checked on this last night. And the ship, the Admiral Gorshkov, you can Google it. Admiral Gorshkov, one of my friends was doing that last night. It was off the coast of Florida last night. Admiral Gorshkov.
Now, remember what happened with Kennedy in the Bay of Pigs with Cuba,
and they were
right?
and they're claiming that they're going up to Cuba and they're going to be based
up to Cuba
from Florida. Yeah.
Cuba's not that way. Cuba's south.
Well, anyway, over
Down
to
to
Cuba.
Cuba.
Over to Cuba. Yeah,
Over to
I'm
Cuba.
not sure which direction they were going. Anyway, they were going over to Cuba, and they're going to be visiting Cuba at the invitation of the Cubans.
Sure.
For kind of a.
Well, they've been wanting to get the Russians in there since 1963.
Yeah. So allegedly the Admiral Gorshkov is not carrying nuclear weapons. That would be a big change if they were to discover that they have them. And this is something we need to be looking at today, as we speak, because the Gorshkov is carrying on it. It is essentially a hypersonic missile frigate. It's loaded with hypersonic missiles, the Zircons, and that's what its job is to fire hypersonic Zircon missiles. They've done successful testing of the Admiral Gorshkov in the last year or two. The Russians have. They fired one rocket from the Gorshkov all the way over to the White Sea. That was a couple of years ago. You might have heard of that. So now this Gorshkov is going to be sitting in Cuba, which is about 1,100 miles from Washington, D.C. Now, the range of the Zircon missile is between 900 and 1,200 miles. So that means that from Cuba, the Gorshkov could fire hypersonic missiles right at Washington.
Yeah. We know that he's having fried eggs this morning at the White House.
So in theory, the positioning of this ship in Cuba represents the equivalent of like the Russian missile crisis of 1963.
Yeah.
It's the
Bay of
equivalent.
Pigs.
The Bay of Pigs was separate from the Russian missile crisis.
How so?
The Bay of Pigs was the Americans and the Cubans trying to overthrow the Cuban government.
Yes.
The Cuban
because
missile,
the Cuban was allowing Russia to be in there.
But the Cuban Missile Crisis was when Russia put.
How did we get Khrushchev to fold and go back home?
Kennedy basically went toe-to-toe with him and said, "You pull those missiles out of Cuba, or we're going to have World War III.
We're going to blow them out of the water.
We're going to quarantine."
But isn't this the same thing that Putin did with Ukraine? Ukraine and they're having these things right on the border there. These military occupation.
We did not put, the U.S. has not put any kind of long-range ballistic missiles, and Ukraine didn't have any of their own in Ukraine.
Well, who was it that he didn't want near the border of Russia?
Well, he doesn't want NATO on the border of Russia.
Right.
That's his
Why
argument.
are they dangerous? Do they have guns too?
Well, NATO as a combined mutual defense pact has everything. NATO is the United States plus all the European countries, and it has everything. The NATO is far more militarily.
It's supposed to be a watchdog agency.
It's a
You
defense.
step out of the line,
it's
we
a
will all collectively get together and say, slap him on the hand, say, you're not going to do that.
Or worse than slap him on the hand, knock the hell out of him. Exactly. So, and
What do you think of NATO?
And
though?
I think NATO is a very strong organization, and it's disciplined and well run.
It is?
Yes. And
Now, would the conservatives agree with you?
yes, most conservatives would, except for the Marjorie Taylor fringe faction. These people that.
She's losing credibility.
Yeah.
What is she doing?
Yeah. But
I thought maybe this is people wanted me to meet her, and I didn't get up into the fairgrounds to see her.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
which cage was she in at the fairgrounds?
All right, Bob Dylan.
Was she sitting on the dunk bench? The dunk bench, you know what that is?
Cage was she in?
You know where the dunk
Something
bench
like
is.
Bobby Dylan would say, man.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to.
But isn't she? And here I'm a conservative,
Yeah.
probably radical in some ways,
Yeah.
and yet
No,
she's
she's off the chart. Yeah, she's off the chart.
and it's too bad. I mean, she's even going after. I like this guy who's the Speaker of the House right now.
Johnson.
I think that's a balanced, good, godly man.
Well, he did vote for the funding for Ukraine, and therefore I have.
She ticked off.
Yes, she was.
he ticked off.
No, he was actually threatened by her
It
that
takes
he would lose
compromise.
Yeah.
You're a diplomat.
Yeah.
You can't get elected without. Can you? I mean, I remember reading some readings when I was younger, and I'm very superficial at all this stuff, but I remember reading some things. I happen to be a great admirer of Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
And I would watch this, and I was kind of reading this stuff, and even for a dunce like me, I would have.
Yeah.
He just stepped up to the razor's edge on this certain policy, and then he was backpedaling a little bit to appease the other side,
Right.
because I said, you have to do that to be a politician. Because listen, now, who you just said that the conservatives are winning in Europe.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Now, just
later.
a short time ago,
Yeah.
we had Margaret Thatcher, very conservative. Then you're out of here, and the left comes in, and they prevail. So what really happens is there's this balance. There's this group of people in the middle, like it is America.
Yeah.
Who really elects
Yeah.
the president of the United States? It's the independents, right? The people who
Yeah.
really
Right.
weigh this. I want to say, if you're an independent out there,
Yeah.
I have high respect for you. Please do your homework, because you are the decisive vote.
Yeah, and they know it. They know it. And 40%.
Because we know a lot of people go down the Republican, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Then we get the Democrats, ding, 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 ding. And
Yeah.
I'm one of those now, only because I remember I voted for. There's
Yeah.
a senator. He's still in office in South Florida, and I voted for him. And then he turned out to have an agenda that was, on one side too liberal. I said, well, I guess I learned my lesson, And
that
it's
was
like,
Marco Rubio, right?
Nope. There's that other guy, the guy that looks like Chris Christopherson.
Oh, okay. All
Who's
right.
that guy? Who's
Okay.
Nelson?
Okay. Anyway, let's finish
I
up
like
on
Nelson. But
Let's finish up because we're going to
extreme
go to break. But
scenario.
let's finish up on this with the Russians having their warships, and they're also doing strategic bomber flights.
But isn't this the same kind of crap he pulled before he went
What
into
he's-
Ukraine?
What he's doing is he's trying to show his displeasure. In fact, the U.S. officials.
If Trump, now this is one thing, the
Yeah.
positive side of Trump.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be there. Trump was in office.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
mean, you got this weak little old
the
guy.
issue-
They
the
wouldn't even
issue-
bring. They wouldn't even bring this
Rhett,
guy who's the president up on charges
Rhett, if-
because he said he's mentally
Rhett,
incapable.
if Trump were in office, Trump would probably not be sending weapons to Ukraine, and therefore Putin would be overrunning Ukraine, and therefore Putin would not have any complaints.
I don't believe that.
The reality is that this is an expression of displeasure by Putin.
But remember, you're probably one of the guys
Yeah.
that was scared of Trump becoming president. They said he's going to start World War III.
Yeah.
You might say North Korea is still blowing up bombs and stuff, but
Yeah.
he did quell that. He flew over there.
Okay.
He took the proverbial wind out of the man's sails, and he has calmed down.
Okay.
He knows that he's a player now.
Right.
I've been recognized by the president of
Well,
the United States.
for-
Am I right about this?
You're right in one sense, and I will give you this ground that Trump, in general, is not a warmonger. He had people around him that were, like John Bolton, who was a warmonger. People that want war, they think that's the best option.
They're considered an eagle, right, as opposed to a dove.
And with Trump as a businessman realizes wars are very expensive, and they destroy a lot of stuff. and therefore wars are not very good for anybody except for the defense industry.
Right.
So they destroy economies, they ruin stock markets, they cause a lot of problems. Wars are tragedies of people and of economies. And if we have a war with China or a war with Russia, we are going to have a terrible economy.
Oh, I know. I know you've run into this, being
Yeah.
the voluminous reader you are.
Yeah.
You run into these books that talk about how man's always been at war.
Well, and when
Always.
cities burn down,
From
they are
Genghis Khan, you know.
they're in terrible conditions. That's wars are not good conditions.
I mean,
I'm a peacenik. I'm in
let
favor
these
of
guys.
peace.
What's the city that started with a D in Germany? They shouldn't have destroyed with all the artwork and everything. It was totally unnecessary.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
burned up all those people, killing all those people. I didn't have nothing to do
Right.
with it.
Well,
But-
so anyway, the last thing I'm going to say here is that right now, as we're speaking, we've got Russian warships and a submarine parked in Cuba or on their way to Cuba, and we have Russian bombers that are flying up and down along the east coast of the United States. Now, that's meant as a signal by Putin that he's not happy. Okay, he's trying to intimidate us. At the same time, he's conducting tactical nuclear exercises with Belarus to scare the Europeans. So he's rattling his chains. He's in his palace with his chains, rattling them around. Whoa, you better watch out, boys. You keep pushing me and I'm going to get mad. And that's part of his bullying tactic. Nuclear weapons won't be used. They can't be used. He knows that. If he uses nuclear weapons, Russia will be a cinder.
You know what I don't understand is, so I get up this morning,
Yeah.
and I like doing the show.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
I realize I feel valid.
Yeah.
Somebody, what's the word? Relevant somewhat. You
Yeah.
know, I remember some nasty lady saying a couple of years ago, "You're just attempting to stay relevant." I was like, "Oh,
You are relevant. You are relevant.
Well,
You're not
maybe in
attempting.
a wee little way.
Yeah.
But what's so I get up and it makes me, I'm 70.
Right.
You know, a lot of people want to retire. I do not ever want to retire. I would die 1,000 deaths to retire.
Yeah.
So you got Putin though. Is a little bit older than me. I'm
He's
70.
72,
He's like
yeah.
72. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but he's got what 80 billion or something. It's very wealthy.
Yeah, he can run his country easily for another 10 or 20 years, unless he happens to fall out of a helicopter.
But I'm or get blown up like that last one.
Yeah.
Do you think we did that?
No, that was Russia that did that.
No, the Iran.
You're Iran. I thought you were talking
Talking about the president of Iran.
Oh, no.
I mean, there are those that say somebody came in here and said, "Well, that's because we can electronically a GPS." we
No,
can
I know.
control." But then I found out from somebody else that it was an old
it was
helicopter.
a 1974 helicopter. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
It didn't have GPS.
It was there before the Shah of Iran fell. Okay, it was. We sold it to the Shah of Iran, and
now
so
it's
that's
not such a bad thing that this guy's gone though, because he's with that Brotherhood, right? That oppresses a lot of people
well.
religiously. Yes, no.
I don't know whether I think his name was Raisi. I don't know that he would have. Who replaces him will be any better or worse.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
When I see all these people, I
Yeah.
scrutinize their face and I go,
Yeah.
okay, we were little kids together, the
Yeah.
same age, going up
Right.
to different places in the world.
Right.
We want to love. Naturally, kids are altruistic generally,
Yeah.
unless they burn up little dogs and stuff and they become murderers later in life. I mean, what happens to these people? Do you think, like, is Putin just drunk on power?
Yeah. There may be some impact. Putin, from what I understand, he was raised as a stepchild.
Okay.
And he was had a very difficult childhood and was bullied
By a stepfather?
either by his stepfather or by other people in his community. He was a small guy too, and therefore he was facing bullying in his life as a young man.
But
he grew to.
Has he not become the thing he feared, though? I mean,
Yeah,
you've got these
he's realized that
these little
the
beautiful
strongest,
little children in Ukraine are being killed, just like the children
Yeah.
in the
Well,
current war.
his philosophy is only the strong survive. That was the position that Putin would have as a child, if you want to use that psychology.
I guess if you learn that, and that's part of your intrinsic being,
Yeah.
and your foundation,
Yeah.
that makes
so you don't show mercy. You basically
kindness is weakness.
yeah, and so he doesn't have compassion in his vocabulary.
Well,
Yeah.
no, we don't know that.
No, I'm saying that's my interpretation. that he's not.
Go ahead.
He would look after his immediate family, and that's an example where he would show concern and care. But outside of that, it's all transactional, and he is essentially a killer. That's Putin's method of survival. Anyway, we go for a break, and
by the way, Noah, I think there's a possibility that a congressman and his group of people are trying to get through on what's it called?
Skype?
No, the other thing we use.
YouTube.
Zoom. Yeah, but not now. But they're supposed to. I would think they were supposed to connect maybe 10, 15 or somewhere. Oh,
Okay,
there is
you're
somebody.
aware. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
We're
anyway,
going
let's
to take a break.
We'll come back and talk about
I'm supposed to play
the Israeli rescue.
Not those things. There we go. Okay, let's go. We're going to take a break, folks. Okay, we'll be back.
The Minutemen answered the call during the American Revolution. Now, Minuteman Press answers the call with custom print and design services designed to promote your business like nobody's business. They lead the charge, but never overcharge for great design, print, and promotional materials. Minuteman Press in Vero Beach and now in Port St. Lucie. Ready to answer the call. Google Minuteman Press or visit pslminutemanpress.com.
Hi, I'm a golf enthusiast, and I love Big Shots Golf on US 1, next to Advanced Eye Care. I was at Big Shots recently and had a great time playing a virtual 18-hole golf course. Big Shots also serves really good food. The mini cheeseburgers are my favorite. I love the ice cream, too. For a fun time, bring your friends and family to Big Shots Golf on US 1.
I know you want to have a beautiful smile. Well, an examination, radiographs, a healthy cleaning would normally be well over $200. Gosh. Right now, for $79, you can call Plains Dental Arts, 231-6004. It's all included for $79. The examination, the radiographs, the healthy cleaning. Okay, call Plains Dental Arts. Make your appointment right now, 772-231-6004. Takes care of gingivitis, takes care of halitosis, gives you a great healthy smile. You get a thorough examination. Plains Dental Arts, just south of the Village Beach Market on A1A. Again, $79 for the examination, radiographs, healthy cleaning, 231-6004. Call now, 772-231-6004.
A.E. Stalls Real Estate and Associates is a hometown family company. Josh and Mandy Stalls, along with their two sons, have deep roots in this community. As a boutique brokerage, they are located steps away from Vero's beachside communities. They have a strong team of realtors, the tools, and experience to guide clients to the closing table. Helping clients feel confident in the buying and selling market is what they do. You can reach them at stallsrealestate.com, Facebook, or 772-800-8305.
They say you sleep a third of your life. So why is shopping for a mattress so important? There's a mattress store on every corner. But when you visit the Mattress Market store, you'll find Steve and his family, in business for 35 years, waiting to help you find the best mattress at the best price to give you the best night's sleep. All the major brands: Serta Perfect Sleeper, Simmons Beauty Rest, Posh and Lavish, Urban Loft Ice, Pure Latex Bliss, I Love My Pillow, Kingsdown, Biscayne Bedding, and many more. US 1 right next to Waves, Mattress Market in Vero Beach, for a good night's sleep and a great deal. Mattress Market.
The Rhett Palmer broadcast is brought to you by Complete Electric Complete Alarm. Get your generator checked now before the next hurricane strikes. Call the good folks at Complete Electric Complete Alarm. You'll be safe and sound when the next hurricane strikes. Call Complete Electric Complete Alarm.
The Minutemen answered the call during the American Revolution. Now, Minuteman Press answers the call with custom print and design services designed to promote your business like nobody's business. They lead the charge, but never overcharge for great design, print, and promotional materials. Minuteman Press in Vero Beach and now in Port St. Lucie. Ready to answer the call. Google Minuteman Press or visit pslminutemanpress.com.
They say you sleep a third of your life. So why is shopping for a mattress so important? There's a mattress store on every corner. But when you visit the Mattress Market store, you'll find Steve and his family, in business for 35 years, waiting to help you find the best mattress at the best price to give you the best night's sleep. All the major brands: Serta Perfect Sleeper, Simmons Beauty Rest, Posh and Lavish, Urban Loft Ice, Pure Latex Bliss, I Love My Pillow, Kingsdown, Biscayne Bedding, and many more. US 1 right next to Waves, Mattress Market in Vero Beach, for a good night's sleep and a great deal. Mattress Market.
I know you want to have a beautiful smile. Well, an examination, radiographs, a healthy cleaning would normally be well over $200. Gosh. Right now, for $79, you can call Plains Dental Arts, 231-6004. It's all included for $79. The examination, the radiographs, the healthy cleaning. Okay, call Plains Dental Arts. Make your appointment right now, 772-231-6004. Takes care of gingivitis, takes care of halitosis, gives you a great healthy smile. You get a thorough examination. Plains Dental Arts, just south of the Village Beach Market on A1A. Again, $79 for the examination, radiographs, healthy cleaning, 231-6004. Call now, 772-231-6004.
Indian River County, roll with us, recycle.
It's hard to recycle, right? Pizza boxes, milk cartons, dog food bags, frozen food boxes, to-go cups and lids. Where do they all go? No worries, there's an app for that. Download the Carter's Corner app on your mobile device at Google Play or the Apple App Store, or visit indianriver.gov to find out if an item is recyclable in your blue cart or not. So eliminate confusion at the cart and recycle right with the Carter's Corner app.
Okay, so we're back, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? It's a very, very rainy day here. By the way, Noah, maybe you can help me later on. I have an iPhone, and it's erratic, and that sometimes it'll wake me up with a lot. And other times, like that's why I was late, a little bit late today.
Okay.
Because, I woke up thinking, oh, I've got a good hour to get ready.
Yeah.
And I had overslept.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't waking me up, even though I had the alarm set for insurance.
Yeah.
So, is there maybe if you have an iPhone, don't you, Noah? I'm surprised that you have an iPhone. Usually, guys that are gifted in the areas you're gifted in usually have these. What do they call them? The other
Smartwatch.
Smartphones.
Smartwatch.
No.
Yeah.
No, not smartwatch, but Androids.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we need to.
Oh, you don't have either.
Yeah, we need to. I've got a dumb watch.
Why do you refuse to get an iPhone?
Okay, we've gone over that many times, and if you want to look at the fact that they're now actually passing laws to prohibit young people from having access to iPhones without parental approval, because there's so much out there.
That's too much government.
There's so much.
That's over.
Yeah,
that's
there's
overstepping
so much. No, they've actually
boundaries.
passed laws in most states now that if you're under 16, you can't get iPhones and
the only
apps.
thing that would make me ever agree to that,
Yeah.
Muslimment, is that we have I never knew we had so many culprits in the world. All these people online every day. I'll teach you. Come to my class, and I'll teach you how to be a coach. We'll teach you how to coach. We'll teach you how to be a coach to teach others to be a coach, and you can put ads in there to teach others to have classes.
Yeah.
And right off the get-go, these people have made millions of dollars,
Right.
and it's like it's all a con.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate
Yeah.
the legitimate ones? Something's got to come forward where legitimate, good
Right.
people. I mean, everybody wants to be a Tony Robbins now,
Yeah.
and then Tony Robbins is having these big events. Yeah, pay me $1,200, and I'll
Right.
teach you
No,
how to
they-
go out and do what I do.
There should be like a good housekeeping seal type program where they have a way of reviewing the quality and content.
I thought about starting a podcast.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Institution or organization?
Yeah,
of some sort,
something where you could
professional podcasters. You know.
so you could qualify and
But
establish.
then you have to have a watchdog
Yeah, I know.
group of some sort that oversees.
Yes.
Now you're stepping out of bounds, you know.
Well, speaking of watchdogs,
and they'll take advantage of kids.
Yeah, speaking of watchdogs, let's get on this next.
There's an ad that comes out, and you go, I know what they want me to do. I've seen it. You go like this. You see this
Yeah.
girl, and she's an attractive girl,
Yeah.
and this is what she's doing in her life. And you put you push it up. You don't have an iPhone, you wouldn't know. You push it up, and it opens up to these, not scandalous pictures or they're trying to take advantage. You got to be. I mean, just there's no legal boundaries.
Yeah, there are what's called filters that can be applied on
I understand
the
that,
iPhones,
but there's generally, even for us adults, it's a wild west out there.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to differentiate. Look, I got an email a few years ago, and it was from Chase Bank saying my account had been compromised. Oh, well, and I'm almost giving forth my information.
And it wasn't from
It's a
Chase
con.
Bank.
They're just using the
it
logo.
wasn't Chase Bank, exactly.
Just last night, I saw this big thing. They're trying to sell me, and it's this whole big thing, and it's available online. I'm considering it, and then I go, they spelt there, T-H-E-I-R. They spelt it T-H-E-R-E.
Exactly. And then what you got to do with all of those, because I although I don't have a smartphone, I have a smart computer, and I do get emails. And a lot of times they're getting messages, and they're claiming they're from my bank or from my insurance company or whatever.
It's from some foreign nation taking advantage of you.
Exactly. And what you have to read, because they're saying, oh, open this because there's some urgent information. Look at not just the name of who it's sending from, but look at the actual email address of the sender, because they can't disguise that, and it'll say it's from Australia or South Africa or Taiwan. I had one recently from Taiwan. Yeah.
When you have an iPhone, you get phone calls. Now, most of them don't. It says Sebastian.
Yeah, and it's not from Sebastian.
No.
Yeah.
It's some guy sitting in a shack in the Ukraine,
Not in the Ukraine. No, don't drag the Ukraine.
They have thieves in Ukraine, too, I bet you know.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, Israel.
They're not important.
Israel hostage
rescue.
Israel. Hostage rescue.
So we're down here at number 4?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
we've already gotten to number 4?
Three.
Oh, 3. There is. Successful Israeli hostage rescue operation. The Israeli Navy commandos launched Operation Amman. I don't know what Amman means.
That's the name of one of the commandos who was killed. They renamed it. They renamed it Amman. It was originally
Amman's the bad guy or the good guy?
No, Amman is one of the good guys that was killed in the attack, in this raid. He was a Israeli commando, but it was originally called Seeds of Spring. But they renamed it in honor of this commander that was killed, Operation Amman, to recognize.
Okay, now you understand that, when we defended ourselves against Germany, mid-war, nobody was concerned that a bunch of, German kids and moms and dads were being killed in Dresden or whatever at that time. Okay, so people, got some guy on this morning saying, they only saved 4 people and yet they killed 270 Palestinians. Obviously, in a perfect world, no one would want that. It's 270 people died, so 4 could be emancipated.
Yeah, well, I want to get into that. That's a good question. Let's try to look at this through a wider lens. The lens is my proposed peace negotiations and hostage release through an exchange program with Hamas giving up hostages and Israel giving up hostages / prisoners that they've been rounding up over the years in the West Bank. They have over 5,000 of these.
What's the thing they're trying to do now, though? They're trying to get the head guy to have to
yeah,
surrender?
we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But the concept of hostage exchange, that actually did happen early in the war. You remember this back in the...
We gave up imprisoned Palestinians.
The Israelis gave up imprisoned Palestinians, not we, the Israelis. And in return, they got over 100 hostages from Hamas back to Israel.
Yeah, but they got
100.
3 or 4 for every one we got.
That's irrelevant. The point is that...
Why is it irrelevant?
It's irrelevant because Israel is rounding up and arresting people. You might call them hostages. They're being rounded up from the West Bank. They have 5,000 of these...
Totally innocent Palestinians that are living in Israel?
They're Palestinians who are...
The West Bank?
Living in the West Bank, mostly, and they have been arrested.
But the West Bank is still part of Israel, isn't it?
It's more or less. How
does this all work when you've got people? We're at war with the Palestinian people in Gaza, and yet there are all kinds of people that are going to work every day, quote-unquote Palestinians, which the Jews used to be Palestinians, too. Everybody was from Palestine, was a Palestinian.
Well, let's call them Arab Palestinians.
Pardon me?
Call them Arab Palestinians.
Okay,
Arabs. They're not...
Everything's morphing. It's kind of hold on to,
all right. Yeah, I understand. Well, anyway, what I want the audience to understand here is that Israel has a approach under Netanyahu that he's going to free the hostages through military action. He says the only way to free the hostages is military action. Now, if you look at this is a war that's been going on for 8 months. In 8 months, they have rescued a total of 7 civilians. 7, including the 4 that were rescued in this great rescue operation of last week. Those 4 plus 2 that were rescued plus 1 more that was rescued. That's all that have been rescued by this military machine that has been slaughtering and killing Palestinians right and left in Gaza. There's over 15, 16,000 children that have been killed in this great war to rescue people. No. Think about that, Rhett. In 7, 8 months, they have only rescued 7 hostages through their military actions. Now, this one that took place that they're celebrating.
You're yelling, by the way.
Okay, the one that they're dancing on the streets in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, saying, "Oh, we got our 4 hostages back." Well, Hamas, sadly, has announced that, yeah, in the process of doing that, as you said, they killed 270 Palestinians. They badly wounded 700 Palestinians for those 4 hostages, and according to Hamas, they killed 3 Israeli hostages. That's not being publicized by the Israelis, but the Israelis in the rescue attempt.
This is the first I've heard of this.
Well, now,
did we get any leadership from Hamas?
any leadership?
Did we kill any of the leaders from Hamas?
No, they didn't kill any leaders from Hamas. No, that was not
Any of the soldiers?
This was only a
We must
rescue.
have killed some Hamas. Out of the 270, aren't some of those Hamas soldiers?
There may have been. There may have been out of those. You're correct. There could have been some that were, but a lot of them were not. This is why the issue of children deaths and women's deaths.
So you're the supreme dictator now. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
But your object is to annihilate Hamas. What would you do? Would you call off the war? This is what I think at first. I'd call off the war, and then and the Jews are very capable people. They rounded up.
They can hunt them down. They can hunt them down. Yeah, exactly. That's what they could do, should do. Instead of this idiocy of bombing buildings down to the ground and killing people, they have destroyed their reputation. The only reason why they're not stopping is because, as I've said before, because Benjamin Netanyahu knows if they stop the war, Benjamin's out of a job. That's why. He's keeping the war going to keep himself in office.
At this point, is he cognizant of the fact that most likely he will be arrested for war crimes once he's not under the protection of a government? Am I correct?
I think that he should be cognizant
I don't think
of that.
he'll be free to travel the world anymore.
He should be cognizant of that fact, but he's attacking everything. The UN basically just in the last week they announced that Israel was being moved to a blacklist category called killers of children, and Russia is already in that
then
category.
What about the Hamas that killed the children on the other side? I mean,
Hamas is also in the same category. Yeah, they are. Hamas is equally bad. They're both committing war crimes. Both of them are committing war crimes in 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
So
yeah.
Is the Zoom meeting? I see something that I do with Zoom. Are they on the line or something?
No, it says in 5 minutes. That's all right. So. All right. So anyway, the argument that Israel is, you hear this being made that Israel is the most moral army in the world. I've heard that repeatedly by
who is
Israel is claiming that the Israeli army is the most moral in the world.
And I know, and you're going to say what I'm going to say too. At first, you see, well, why did this soldier kill this little kid who's over in the West Bank before this war?
Yeah,
and he happened to be over near the garbage heap and shot, and he's in a wheelchair forever. But remember, there's good and bad. Just like in America, there's good and bad white people, there's good and bad black people, there's good and bad Hamas, there's good and bad, or not Hamas, or Palestinians, but there's good, right? But there's good and bad, soldiers in Israel. And you've got youth.
But don't brag about being the most moral army in the world when you are also accused as an army of being child killers.
But they're not perfect, okay.
Well, anyway. You kill 15,000 children and you say, I'm not perfect.
But you know this is one thing that you need to work on.
What?
You have thrown your heart over the fence.
No, I haven't.
It's okay to throw your heart over the fence.
No, I haven't thrown my heart over the fence. I am looking objectively at the situation. If an army kills 15,000 children in an 8-month period, that's not a most moral army. A moral army doesn't do that.
Let's see if you're objective on this. 1/4 of 1% of the land in the Mideast there is Israel. 1/4%. It's this little teeny tiny strip of land. You got all this other, and yet they're saying that they want to say that Israel is the culprit. I mean, it's
no.
just,
Israel is not.
look,
Israel.
there it is. I mean, that's honest.
Rhett,
It's 1/4%.
Rhett, Israel is not a culprit. The people of the Netanyahu government that are Zionists, who are essentially racist Zionists, who want to expel anybody who isn't a practicing Jew off of the land. That's the problem.
I think you're over exaggerating, because a lot of non-Jews live in Tel Aviv.
Well,
I've been there.
Well,
and they're accepted.
I know,
and they're embraced.
I know, but that's
shop owners.
The point is, those people that are non-Jews are not tolerated by the Zionist, what's called the Ben Gvir Zionist faction. They don't want anybody. They've spit on Christians. Remember, we talked about that.
That's not right to say. Ben Gvir, though, he actually was moderate. He wasn't.
No, Ben Gvir is not moderate. Ben Gvir is an extremist of the Kachist. Of Meir Kahane.
Well, he was forced into
Meir
that.
Kahane.
Wasn't he forced into that?
No. Ben Gvir was a member of the Meir Kahane group called the Kachists. Okay. Meir Kahane is one of the most extreme. They were identified inside Israel itself as a terrorist organization.
So when I flippantly say...
So Ben Gvir was a terrorist.
So when I flippantly say that I'm a Zionist, because, see, for me...
Well, Zionism has different...
For me, this
spectrum.
land is a land that was promised from God Almighty, the creator of the universe, to Moses, to Abraham, and then to Moses, and then they were there. Now, you're saying because the Jews left what was then Palestine,
Canaan at the time. Canaan,
it wasn't
that
Palestine. They lost authority of that.
Yeah, well...
And I disagree.
Yeah, for 1600 years, they lost authority. Yeah, they weren't in charge for 1,600 years. And suddenly, at the time of Chaim Weissman, they suddenly decide that they're going to come back and take this land back.
You and I and our self-proclaimed nobility and righteousness. And remember, was it the Amorites or one of those groups? God told King Saul,
Amalekites.
He said, "This shocks me. I still got to talk to God someday about this." He says, "Go kill the children, the moms, the dads, even their cattle, to wipe that cancer completely out, lest they be a thorn in the side to Israel forever."
Yeah.
Saul took the king. What do you call it? As a
this was an order by Samuel, the prophet Samuel.
Yes.
Okay. It was not God. It was Samuel.
God was pretty good at speaking through Samuel.
Okay. Well, that's a questionable. I would myself raise that as, and lots of prophets were not accepted. You've got Elijah and all these different prophets. Many of them were debated within Jewish history as were they a true prophet or a false prophet.
We have it in the church right now.
Yeah.
There are true and there's false voices. I see things. I've never made money from it.
Right.
I see things.
Yeah.
And you can ask history. Just this past week, a number of things came to pass that I told people personally. Because I see stuff.
Yeah.
So I am to the best of my ability. I try to be honest, because Jesus said, "No liar, son to the kingdom of God." Now, I might be in trouble one day because God might say, "I gave you this talent and you could have been on TV." I don't want to be on TV like those people that are robbing people of money.
And if God,
to me, that's ill-gotten gain. When you're flying around in a jet that you're taking the Social Security money from a little old lady in Wisconsin.
It's ill-gotten gain. Yeah. And keep in mind that Keep in mind that Israel existed before, and it fell. Israel fell. It divided. And then it fought amongst itself. The north and the south fell, and then they were both conquered by outside powers. So,
who gave away the West Bank?
That was God's will.
In the past 20 years, who gave away? Who lost the West Bank to the Palestinians?
It's not a question of lost the.
Well, in a way, though, he gave it up. He gave up territory. The day after he did. Who am I talking about?
I don't know.
He was the big shot, like this guy that's in there now. Anyway, and he the next day he has a stroke. Yeah. And he lays in a comatose for 7 or 8 years and then never regains and dies because he gave away some of God's land. You don't give away God's land, particularly if you're a Jew.
Well, speaking of punishment...
When you take out the spiritual side of everything...
When I mentioned this about Ben Gvir and the Khanists, I want to point out that they were identified as terrorists. And some of the Khanists were involved in the assassination of the Israeli prime minister that signed the Oslo peace accords. Okay, 1993, Yitzhak Shamir signed the peace accords, and 2 years later, he was assassinated by Conists, extremists, Zionist extremists.
That was over by the grave of Abraham, or one of those guys.
No,
King
that was
David?
that was an earlier. The tomb of the prophets, as they call it, was a earlier episode that tended to help disrupt the Oslo Accord.
You know, it's too bad that everybody has to get into so much detail, because your non-academic
Yeah.
is not going to wade through the mud of a book that has a whole
Right.
bunch of. Maybe you can have a book, but maybe at the beginning you give the basics, the overview.
Yeah.
Just like they're gonna give you a book deal.
Yeah.
You don't write the whole book out, but you write, this is what we're going to be covering.
Right.
Give people the basics. Basics. Because you get into these books, even I'm at Barnes & Noble reading this one, Petraeus, who I had in here and I interviewed. Well, I
Right.
didn't have him in here.
Right.
I interviewed him. I don't think he came in here. I think I interviewed him backstage. I'm not sure. But anyway, your guest is in the waiting room. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He has
All right.
Petraeus, by the way, had a what's called the Petraeus doctrine of counterinsurgency.
Oh, okay. Do you want to stay on the line with this guest? It's a congressman. He's going to be talking about, I think, ecology. I'm not really sure.
Ecology?
I don't know.
No, that's all right. I think I'll beg out.
Do we cover everything we need to cover?
We did. We'll cover this last question about the European elections next week. We won't make that much difference if we don't get to it until next week. So, but the hard right is winning in Europe.
Do you have the name of the guest, Noah, typed up?
So, okay, so you've muted the mics, right?
No. Okay, I'm going to mute the mics. And